Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome. I am so excited to just come back today and talk about the rally that took place today. I'm so excited. Yesterday, we analyzed Mpika. Mpika was epic. It was beautiful in Mopika yesterday. The atmosphere was just amazing. But today, we even have it bigger and better. We were in the heart of northern province of Zambia in Chinsali district. The NRPUP party was in Chinsali district today for their rally. Oh my God. This thing is getting bigger and better. Bigger and better. The crowd was amazing. The reception was amazing. We saw how our incoming president Brian Mundubile and Makebi Zulu went to the palace to go and pay their courtesy call, how they were greeting the people in the community as they were going to their place where they were going to hold the rally. People walked miles and miles just to make it for today's rally that took place. This just tells you something. Makebi Zulu mentioned something that really touched me. He said, "This is Cha-Cha-Cha number 2." Let's find time one day and just talk about the Cha-Cha-Cha movement and what happened in those days. It gave that Cha-Cha-Cha, vibe, that Cha-Cha-Cha spirit. Young people, old men, old women, young men, everybody just turned up. Children who would tell me everybody attended that rally today. It was powerful and it was amazing. The most beautiful part about the rally is whichever district, province that the team is going to, in as much as the manifesto still remains the same, but they're trying by all means to customize it. What do I mean? They're looking at actual problems that that place is facing. Yes, Chipata could have challenges, but Chipata challenges could be different from what Chinsali is facing. What Chinsali is facing could be different from what Chipata is facing, in as much as we are all facing poverty. And today, I'm just going to talk about, yes, I'll talk about everything that was mentioned, but I will stress on some of the new things that came up in today's manifesto. It was really, really interesting. I promise I'm not going to take much of your time. Yeah. So let's do this, guys. So we were in the heart of Chinsali, Northern Province. This is a place where the struggle for independence started between the 1950s and the 1960s. This was led by the Nationalist Party, by the leaders KK, Kenneth Kaunda, by Mwansa Kapwepwe and Harry Kumbula. If you guys remember very well your history, yeah, you remember how they all started, how they would gather in Chinsali, how they would have meetings. Chinsali was like the little headquarters where all these secret meetings were happening, where all these people started coming up, the uprising, the rising freedom fighters came from the heart of Chinsali. This is where it all started from. Yeah, the liberation of Zambia. For Zambia to become independent, everything started from Chinsali district. And seeing the party today in Chinsali just made me, appreciate my country and just look back to where we are coming from. I was actually hoping that Tiende Pamozi Nimti Maumo would be sung. Anyway, let's save that for another place and another time. But I was hoping that that song would be sung today just to remember, the old times, just to remember, the olden days, the days of freedom fighting. It was amazing. Yeah. So I'm going to briefly talk about what happened. So we had other candidates that came and they spoke from the alliance. They introduced themselves. It was really beautiful to see other former political leaders of the PF come and just give their testimonies. They told us what offices they served in, and they're behind the new party, and they are saying, let's go, we are backing you and we're going to win this. It was amazing just seeing how everybody turned up for NRPUP party. beautiful. So, as usual, we had Makebi Zulu that opened the floor before our incoming president was ushered in. And Makebi Zulu today spoke about something slightly different. Yesterday, when he came in, he talked mostly, yes, about the broken promises. Today, he did touch on the broken promises, but he also spoke about something that is very important. Makebi spoke about the cyber law, how we have been robbed of our freedom of speech. He gave examples of how some, patriotic leaders were put in jail, were put in prison due to the cyber law, and actually those leaders were present in the meeting, and he mentioned their names and pointed at them and said, see how we're being oppressed, or in the name of this cyber law and everything. He did speak a little bit more about the cyber law, how we feel oppressed. It's not giving us the freedom of speech. People can't talk freely anymore. He talked about him being a lawyer and how he understands and translates cyber law, very different from what's actually happening on the ground. That was very touching. He opened, the flow by talking about a cyber law. He did still remind the people about the promises that the UPND government made, one of them being the reduction of price in milli meal. Yeah, he reminded them to say, remember how we promised that milli meal would be bought at 50 kwacha, but how much are you buying milli meal for today? This is very important, in as much as it might not really sound important to other people if you're listening to me from a different country. Milli meal is a staple food in Zambia. We depend on a meal called nshima, and nshima is made out of milli meal. Every household in Zambia eats nshima, and for us to have the milli meal prices hiked, I don't know how many times, it has become very hard for households, to have proper and stable meals, because the actual staple meal that we eat every day has skyrocketed. People cannot manage to buy milli meal anymore. Yeah, and that is our staple food. That is what we are used to, isn't it? And it's so sad to learn that that is what is happening, on the ground. And when the UPND government was coming in, they promised us. They said that the prices of milli meal were going to drop, but today milli meal is now 4 times more than what it was. Yeah. He talked about the road projects. Yeah, he talked about the road projects. So initially, the PF government had started the plan of building roads, between districts, between provinces, within, connecting small towns and the like. And he mentioned to say in Chinsali, the PF government had started the road project, and where it ended, that's where it is until today. Nothing has been done by the current government. It's over 5 years. Nothing has been done. No development has touched Northern Province, Chinsali district in particular, and the audience did agree to this. He mentioned that this is a point that he raised. He also gave a brief history of how the two parties were formed, how they came together and decided to come up with the NRPU party, and him agreeing to be the running mate and allowing Brian Mundubile to be the party president. Yeah, he came in with all his jokes and stuff. He did his mboyaship, which worked so well. There's just something beautiful about how, Makebi Zulu connects with the audience. It's so beautiful. You can tell he's himself. He's not struggling, he's talking like he's just talking to one person here and there, and yet he's addressing thousands and thousands of people. And the audience also was so beautiful. They were responding and feeding in to what he was saying. So he talked about how they came about together, and that he is the running mate, and he introduced them to the actual president. It was so beautiful. So Makebi just concluded with his speech where he talked about wanting to restore love and peace within the nation. He talked about overlooking tribes and overlooking names when it comes to issues of development. He was, against what is currently happening, the hate, the division. He spoke briefly about it before he actually gave up the mic. Yeah. So then we had Brian Mundubile come on stage. This was the highlight of the day. He picked up the microphone with so much confidence and he delivered his manifesto just like we expected. One unique thing that happened was how the Chinsali audience was responding. If you guys listen to those videos, again, you will hear how people were shouting in the background saying, save us, save us, save us, please, save us, please. When he talks about something that was promised and was not done, would hear people shouting slogans, people shouting, asking him to save them. Save us, save us. You can really tell that people are really in anguish. People are hurt. People are upset, that promises were not met. People are angry. People are hungry. Everything hungry and angry. That is what is currently happening. He asked the people, do you want change? And everybody said, yes, we want change. He assured the people of Chinsali that he has agreed to the call to take up the challenge to lead the nation. He also gave a brief history of how his own father was a freedom fighter. Oh, what a day. It was powerful. Yeah. So he spoke in those grounds and he said, my father stood these grounds and fought for independence with the other leaders. And here we are today. So this is a son of the soil. This is a son of the soil who is saying, I am going to liberate Zambia again. This feels like independence number 2. Yeah, actually, this is what it was referred to. They were like, what's going to happen will be like independence number 2. Yeah, the chants went on in the audience. He also sympathized with the audience on all the struggles that they are going through due to the broken promises that the current government has made. The audience kept chanting and saying, save us, save us. He acknowledged the farmers and also sympathized with them on the broken promise of the fertilizer and the seed, and assured them, just like in every other place that he's gone to, that they are going to return the 8 bags of fertilizer as well as seed. Yeah. He also emphasized to the people of Chinsali and said, as you vote on that day, vote for the few, vote in mind, think about the future of your children. That was so profound. Like, it just hits me hard, and I hope people got that message. He spoke about that with so much passion. He said, as you vote on that day, don't just think about yourselves, but think about the future of your children. That is logic. Yeah. He talked about the mining challenges that are going on. We briefly spoke about this yesterday in detail. We spoke about it in detail in Mupika, and he also raised this in Chinsali, and he talked about how young people are dying. He talked about the issues of licenses. Instead of everybody going to Lusaka, the capital city, to go and get licenses for mining, but he's saying the mining officers will be brought to them locally and they'll be able to get licenses for mining. Yeah. And then he repeated Sata's words. Sata always spoke about liberating Zambia and giving Zambia the opportunity, to develop and live again. Yeah, he repeated Sata's words of liberation, and he said that is what he is coming to do. Yeah, it was such a beautiful rally today. He promised to rebuild the main road that was not finished, and also the smaller roads that are connecting to smaller towns. He says once they are voted into power, he is coming to finish those projects that were left halfway. He spoke about the social cash transfer, and he assured the people that once they're brought back into power, they will continue getting the social cash transfers, and not only giving them access to social cash transfer for those that are eligible, but they will be paid on time and will be paid accordingly, which was brilliant. He went on and spoke about free education, which I am passionate about. He spoke about building more classrooms, reducing, the current situation where you have 50 plus pupils in one class with one teacher. He talked about bringing it down, bringing the ratio down to 40 pupils to one teacher ratio, which sounds very reasonable to me. Something that he spoke about also today that really came out was providing books in providing books in school. So in as much as they're going to give free education, he is saying they are going to provide free books, and they're starting with schools in the rural areas. He also spoke about giving children the opportunity to get free uniforms from their schools, and that they will empower the women in those communities to be able to make these uniforms, and these uniforms will be given for free to the children. So they're not going to employ anybody from abroad, or they're not going to buy anything from anywhere, or hire people to give people tenders to make these uniforms. But he's saying they are going to empower the local women and men in Chinsali district to be able to make uniforms for their children, and these uniforms will be given for free in the schools. So the government is actually going to take up the responsibility of buying the materials and everything else, and empowering the women and men in that community to be able to provide, to be able to have the skill to make uniforms, and those uniforms will be provided to the children for free. Yeah, that was so beautiful. He talked about, which was very sad, he talked about the burial of our former president Edgar Chagwa Lungu, and he says we are only thinking about burying our president after the elections. They want to give him a dignified burial. They want to give him all the respect that he deserves, and they are saying once they're back into power, this is going to happen. There was murmurs going on in the audience, like you could hear people murmuring and sympathizing with what he had spoken, concerning ECL, Edgar Chagwa Lungu. May his soul continue to rest in eternal peace. And it is my prayer that our former president is given a dignified funeral. He talked about promoting unity and refused division. Something else that he also mentioned that stood out was he promised that he is going to give respect and honor to HH even as he becomes former president. He says, we're going to honor you and respect you as the former president of the Republic of Zambia, and we're not going to repeat this pattern of humiliating former presidents. He talked of forgiveness. He talked of unity. In as much as it sounds really hard, I think this was the highlight of today's rally. This is a leader that we're all looking for. A leader that is promoting peace, a leader that is promoting forgiveness. When the incoming president of the Republic of Zambia, Brian Mundubile, when he is addressing HH, he says, my elder brother, or he says, the president of the Republic of Zambia, he addresses him with so much respect. But when it's the other way around, they're called names. They're called boys, they're called whatever, and all sorts of names. But when you hear BM mention the current president, he mentions him with so much respect. This man really means well for the Republic of Zambia. Otherwise, it was going to be a chochise, type of thing. But he's according him the respect that he needs, despite him being disrespected. Yeah. So he spoke about, removing hate and promoting forgiveness. Towards the end, the last point that he spoke about was in relation to the debt sweep policy. This was addressing civil servants, that he understands that most of them are in debt, and as the government comes, as the new government is forms and is in power, they are going to look into this and make sure that the civil servants are relieved. Another very important thing that he emphasized was most of the civil servants are going to be involved, in the election processes and the like. And he said, do not be deceived, do not be corrupt. Nobody should corrupt you. Nobody should convince you to rig the elections. He really, 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 really emphasized this. And he says, this is not going to end well. You'll be discovered somehow, somewhere, because so many people's eyes are watching that ballot. And if you be given that opportunity to be in the forefront of the electoral process, make sure that you do the right thing. Do not rig the elections. He pleaded with the civil servants that were present in that rally. Yeah, highlights of the day. I loved Madame Kapwepwe. Just seeing her come on stage and speak, I could tell she was struggling with her voice. I think she's been screaming and talking quite a lot, but it was lovely to see her. She is the daughter of the soil. She is royalty, and just having her with the team just added so much cream, to the whole cake. It was beautiful. I loved seeing her. Kampiongo also was the highlight of the day. He took up the mic, introduced the freedom fighter, gave a brief history of Chinsali and how the freedom fighters came about and how they fought for independence and all those things. I think that was really, really beautiful. He spoke about, if Chinsali accepts you, if Chinsali is going to give you votes, just know that you are winning these elections, because it all started from here. Everything starts from Chinsali. Until death, everything starts from Chinsali. We all know the history that Chinsali holds. Yeah. Madame Kapwepwe asked and said, do you know the population of Chinsali and Chilindi put together? It's about 69,737. And she asked them, how many votes are we going to get from you? And the people responded, you will get the 69,737 votes from us. So we're waiting for those votes from Chinsali. Chinsali has promised, and I know Chinsali will deliver. Thank you so much. Another highlight of the day was a man that came up. I didn't note his name. I didn't really get it. He spoke about people living with disabilities and children living with disabilities, and he said, if you want these people to be catered for, if you want these people to be included in everything that is happening, make sure that you choose Mundubile as your leader, because he is going to make sure that young people, he's going to make sure that women and men that are living with disabilities are included at every stage of development in the country. They will not be excluded. It will be all inclusive. Yeah. Another big up to the sign language interpreter. I mean, this man is just amazing. I was actually asking myself to say, is he interpreting the song as well? I would love to see where he is when the song is playing. Please, Mr. Cameraman, yeah, next time show us where the sign language interpreter is when the campaign song is playing. We want to see the sign language as well, yeah, for the song. That would be really nice to see. So thank you so much for being with me, for being able to analyze and summarize today's rally. Let's look forward to the next rally. If we are going to have time, we'll definitely come back and have a chat about it. Let me know what you think about the rally. Please share, leave your comments down. Let me know what you think. Thank you so very much. I love you so much. May God richly bless you. I love Zambia. I love my motherland. And I'm saying change is coming. And Mundubile and Makebe Zulu are the change we want to see. Good night and God bless you.